Welcome beautiful people. I'm April Oakyeard and today I'm going to be drawing and discussing my favorite conspiracy theories. Let's get to it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Here I am drawing the first episode of my webtoon, April is Unwell, which is called The Elderly X-Files. It has already been on webtoon for a few months now, but it took me forever to get the editing of this video done. Anyway, on to the conspiracy theories. The first one is the theory that birds aren't real. This is, of course, satire. I like it because of the pure silliness, not because I actually believe it. As someone who has owned birds, I can assure you that the ones that I have owned have been real. Real loud, real annoying, real birds. So the origin, again, came from a satire of other conspiracies. A person wrote birds aren't real on a sign and people just ran with it. They jokingly assert that the government killed off birds and replaced them with surveillance drones. It is also said that they charge on power lines. Remember, if it flies, it spies. And I'm kidding, of course. The next theory I like is that the Denver airport is a secret Illuminati headquarters. Now, do I believe it's an actual Illuminati headquarters? No. I do believe that it is unusual though. The bizarre design of the airport runways strangely resembles a certain symbol of hate that we've come to know over time. And then there's Blucifer, which is a 32-foot tall blue fiberglass horse with glowing red eyes at the airport's entrance. During its construction, a piece of the statue actually killed its creator, Luis Jimenez, when a piece fell and crushed him. There's also that sus dedication stone that states the airport was funded by the New World Airport Commission. That's not even an actual documented organization, at least not that I've been able to find. It's just strangely close to New World Order. And what would the New World Order use to construct their special airports? A New World Airport Commission, of course. Speaking of which, how much order would a New World order if a new world could order? Tell me in the comments. There's also the underground tunnels. Though I believe that the initial purpose possibly did have something to do with a baggage system, I think the space could currently be utilized by the military and/or the global elite. There's no telling. The next conspiracy theory is that celebrities are being cloned or replaced. Again, this is one that I really like, but I don't fully believe. Do I believe that celebrities are being cloned? No. I don't think we've come that far yet. I do believe that, in some circumstances, they could be replaced. Hear me out. Famous people, and actually some non-famous people, have hired body doubles. That is a known fact. It can be done for safety or to throw off people who could be tracking or following them with malicious intent. I've heard the conspiracy that Avril Lavigne died in 2003 and was replaced by a lookalike named Melissa because Avril later looked and acted differently. This could be due to the fact that Avril was still young when she first came into the spotlight, and people's facial features do change, as does their maturity level. Is it possible that it's a body double? Of course. Is it likely? I'm on the fence about this one. I've also heard the conspiracy that the Britney Spears we see in her videos on social media is not actually her because of her body, teeth, facial features, and dancing being different. This woman spent a lot of her life being mistreated, manipulated, and abused by people who should have had her best interests at heart. If she never wanted to be in the public eye again, I would completely understand. If she hired a body double as a stand-in for herself, more power to her. If other people harmed her and had the nerve to replace her with a look-alike, then them. But it's possible that she is just older now and these changes are just due to part of the natural aging process. My next favorite conspiracy is that the Earth is hollow. It's another one that I don't believe, but I find interesting. This theory states that the Earth is not solid, but is hollow, and contains entire civilizations. Sometimes with advanced technology, strange creatures, or even ancient humans. As an avid reader of certain stories that take place in a certain underworld realm, I appreciate this theory. Unfortunately, I feel like the planet would just collapse under the weight of the surface because of gravity. There are myths and stories that point to real underground worlds, but it should be understood that these cultural and religious myths are often symbolic or metaphorical, not literal. When a lot of people think of heaven and hell, for example, it's that heaven is in the clouds and hell is underground. Well, if you've been in an airplane, you know there aren't any angels chillin' up there on the clouds. While I do completely get why people could believe the theory of a hollow Earth, I personally do not. It's just because of real, proven things like gravity, you know? The next theory, and one that I actually do believe, is that Hollywood is full of cults. This kind of ties back into the theory that celebrities are being cloned or replaced, as it can be thought that secret cults or organizations can be responsible for such actions. Celebrities, directors, producers, and studio execs are part of an exclusive network of professionals. Would cults within that circle of professionals be that far-fetched? I mean, look at all of the scandals that have arisen in recent years in Hollywood. There's no way that things like that could happen to that degree, for that long of a time, without a sick little group of people who have been sworn to some degree of secrecy. You absolutely cannot convince me otherwise. The leap from a group of people sworn to secrecy to a cult is not that big. Either way, while these groups might lean more towards secret societies than actual cults, the things that are assumed to go on in these groups are more nefarious than they are secretive. Before we move on to the next theory, leave a comment if you feel the same way about this theory in particular. I'm curious how many of you think the same about Hollywood cults. The next theory I like is the one that the moon landing was faked. I already know I'm going to have a lot of people disagree with me, but I do believe it was real. I haven't always believed it though. Consider this, there were thousands of people who worked on the Apollo project. The project was much too massive to be faked without a single credible leak or whistleblower during all this time. I used to think the lack of stars and the flag movement were the giveaways that it was faked. However, stars weren't seen because of how bright the moon was, due to sunlight. Between that brightness and the settings on the camera, the stars would have been too dim to be picked up on film. And the reason the flag moved so strangely was due to there being no air resistance on the moon. Furthermore, other countries have been to the moon, so wouldn't they have exposed hours for lying about landing on the moon, if that was the case? So, is it possible that it was a hoax? That we never went to the moon? Of course it's possible, but I definitely don't find it probable. Now, we're going to move on to the final conspiracy theories. These are the ones that I believe the most. The first is the "my red is not your red" theory. I honestly thought this before I even knew that it was an actual conspiracy theory. Think about it. What if we both call the sky blue, but the actual experience of blue in your mind is completely different from mine? We can measure wavelengths of colors, but we can't measure a subjective experience. There's no way to peek inside someone else's consciousness to compare their blue or red or whatever color to yours. As a child, we're taught to label what we see. We saw a color, we were told that's red. From there on, you associate that visual input with the word red. Even if your experience is different, we use the same label, so it all seems consistent. I've read an explanation somewhere as this: it's a shared language, not necessarily a shared experience. And, let's not forget, that colorblind people do exist too. They literally see the world differently, proving a variation in perception. I don't think there would ever be a solid way to prove whether your perception of red is the same as my perception of red, so we might never know for sure. The final conspiracy theory, or technically, conspiracy-adjacent theory, is the Mandela effect. For those unfamiliar, it's when a large number of people remember something a certain way, but objective reality says otherwise. This leads to the belief that we're dealing with alternate timelines, glitches in the matrix, or collective memory manipulation. The one that really gets me is the fruit of the loom cornucopia. If it never happened, if it never existed, why do most of us who remember it looking the exact same way? I don't really believe there could be a collective misremembering to this extent. I have theories on why we all remember the cornucopia the same way, but I haven't researched these ideas enough to discuss them right now. I haven't found anything with a fruit of the loom logo on it yet, but believe me when I say I'm constantly on the lookout. Another popular one is the movie Shazam, where Sinbad played a genie, and which never actually existed. I know that there was a movie named Kazam, where Shaq played a genie, and which really did exist. For years, I really did think that Kazam and Shazam were two separate movies that were from around the same time. The only thing I can think of at this point in my life is that there was a confabulation resulting in a portmanteau of Shaq and Kazam. You know, Shazam. How Sinbad comes into that is really anyone's guess. I also like the one about the Monopoly man wearing a monocle. I want to say I also recall him wearing one, but I really think my mind is thinking of Mr. Peanut. The Monopoly man would look quite dapper with one.
Yeah! Woo!
Sorry about that. Before we finish though, I would like to give an honorable mention to none other than the cat distribution system. This is a joke that describes how people often end up with a cat unexpectedly. Like when a cat just shows up at their door, at work, or is found in a random place, and somehow becomes part of their life. The cat adopts you, not the other way around. One of our cats was literally distributed to us by the system via the roof of our house. She was a small kitten, not even old enough for the vet to be comfortable spaying her. And no one around us placed her on our roof. Definitely the cat distribution system. Definitely. As you can see, we've reached the end and the comic has been completed. Sure, the quality of the artwork itself might appear like absolute garbage to some, but I was not redrawing this comic to show artistic improvement. It was just for fun and to transfer my art to a different medium. Thank you for hanging out with me again today. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow me at any of the socials pictured here. Love you guys, and I'll see you in a new one soon.